Today I'm going to tell you how to solve a very unpleasant problem in the Peugeot 308T9 with a 1.6 HDI engine, specifically the car jerking when starting and shifting gears. If you now think that you already know the answer and it's just a matter of changing the turbo pipe, well, not everything is that straightforward, but let's take it step by step. The problem is that on high mileage, usually around 200 but more often beyond 200,000 kilometers, when starting from a standstill, especially in a hot car, the problem can be most noticeable. This issue is most obvious in city driving, at traffic lights, in traffic jams, all of that. So when you start, the car jerks very noticeably. You can say it jolts and lurches. For some, this problem is quite evident. For others, less so. Some people just manage to live with it and learn how exactly they need to press the clutch and gas pedal, how much force to apply to minimize the effects. Some folks even get recommended to change a dual mass flywheel, certainly along with the clutch. It's quite costly. So, let's delve into the symptoms of the issue. When I first started my car from a stop, it was shaking, specifically the engine. The vibration was tremendously powerful, similar to starting from the fourth gear or even the fifth with great intensity. Although there's a high chance of stalling, it's only manageable to play around with the clutch and the gas pedal to find the exact strength and exact position for starting. As I mentioned, the problem tends to show up more when the engine is heated up. Meanwhile, there's smooth shifting in gears without any issues whatsoever. Maybe your clutch pedal's clip is worn out. I do have a video discussing this topic on my channel. Generally speaking, if you see wear on this clip, it could be responsible for the symptoms previously mentioned. So if you can start moving your vehicle but require the use of the gas clutch pedal, then it's likely a problem with the clip or the pipe located under the hood. There's also a possibility that this is an issue with the clutch and flywheel, meaning it might be time to implement some half measures. However, let's not focus on this possibility just now within the context of this video. So, before spending large sums of money on repairs, open the hood and inspect this specific pipe. Take notice of its condition, whether or not it's original. In most cases previously mentioned, replacing it with a new one proves helpful. Don't ask me about changing gears. The vibrations are primarily linked to the air pipe. Trust me, they are connected. To put it scientifically, it isn't a pipe, rather an air tube bushing. The parts code is displayed on your screen. So if this bushing looks somewhat like this, say, slightly misted in oil, or to be more accurate, in a covering of dust or even oily overall, the likelihood that it needs replacing is quite high. Again, don't think that it has to have a hole, some kind of hole, or that it should be torn to shreds. No, such slight misting is enough. Actually, these are probably micropores in the rubber, something like that. At present, the price range in Belarus is as follows. The original costs $45 to $50. The non-original costs half as much, $20 to $25. And of course, there are other options. These prices, some are even more expensive than the original, around $65. I bought something in the middle, specifically the company Rapro from Turkey, for $33. I can't say yet whether it's a good choice or not. I chose this particular brand because they supply rubber products to the assembly line of many cars. They have been working for a long time, and the reviews are everywhere, well, mostly positive. But I repeat, you need experience in operation, so in a year or two I will tell you whether this is a good choice or bad. If anything comes in such a package, the hologram even seems to be real. In terms of material and elasticity, everything is good. It doesn't feel like oak to the touch. It's about 1.5 to 2 times thicker than the original. The original is thin and rubbery. This one from Rapro, when you twist two in your hands at once, feels more serious and reliable. Only time will tell. As for the very cheap knockoffs, first of all, they're a little different in shape, but I think this doesn't affect the work in any way. Secondly, there's an article on Drive. Actually, that's where I learned about all these pipes. So this guy installed a knockoff from the company Peugeot. It needs a little trimming, but I think there's nothing scary about it. What's unpleasant is that after a short while, this pipe began to show cracks on the outside. Not much, of course, it still functions. But as the author says, it turned a bit wooden, so it's up to you what to install. But there are options. Let's continue. Regarding the replacement, it's pretty straightforward here. The socket is 7, release 2 clamps. You'd think that's enough, but no. The bushing or the pipe tends to stick to the plastic over time. Plus, the space is tiny. It's challenging to get a grip. So to avoid tearing or breaking anything, we take a 10 socket and loosen the 2 bolts that keep the air pipe. It hinders a bit, turn counterclockwise and remove the pipe. With the same 10mm head, unscrew the turbocharger muffler. There are 2 bolts. One is easily accessible, but for the second we actually have to remove the air pipe. When unscrewing the bottom bolt, be careful because it can easily fall into the engine. To prevent this from happening, I highly recommend getting a magnetic extension cord with a light. They're available on AliExpress and have come in handy several times. It's definitely a must-have. Then, carefully remove the muffler and the pipe on the left. Carefully remove the pipe on the left, prying it off with something not sharp. Now, it's in our hands, looks fine and is intact. But upon closer inspection, there's a little bit of oil inside, which is normal. If you're interested in how the inside of a turbocharger muffler looks, here it is. Also, it's highly recommended. Changing this seal ring isn't very cheap. The original one costs about $10. I didn't find any replacements. However, theoretically, the issue could still be with it. For me, it was quite hard. I would even say almost like oak. In my case, I'm almost certain that just replacing this O-ring without replacing the pipe would not have fixed the problem or have made a significant reduction. I'll say it again, my ring was more like plastic than elastic rubber. Coming back to the pipe, we also carefully pry it off. Removing it from the muffler, here is a clear comparison of the new and old pipes. The new one is a bit longer and much thicker. Honestly, it's the same length. Just over the years, it's formed a slightly different shape. At first, I even had the idea to trim the new one a bit. However, after a moment of thought, I decided against it. Well, there's not much more to explain. We install a new pipe, change the seal ring, and then reassemble everything. A few points. I don't know for what purpose, but a clamp was soldered into the pipe. It stood on the left, on the right side without a clamp. If it changes anything at all, the old clamp, if anything, is quite workable. I installed it, also installed the pipe, just like the old one. I mean exactly the fastening of the clamp. It was almost vertically from the bottom. I don't know whether it affects at least something or not. Probably not, but white stripes were also drawn on the native one. They coincided with the lines on the plastic. On the right, left, most likely this is just so that you can read the marking of the pipe. But nevertheless, we do not clamp the clamps. We bait the bolts from the bottom to the top. Only when everything in the assembly is in place, we clamp. We do not need much force here. We connect the air pipe back, everything, drive. And so to recap briefly, if your car is jittering and you're looking to, or at least hoping to, fix it easily, then disconnect the hose from the muffler and examine the condition of the sealing rubber. If it's hardened, probably just replacing it will suffice, which will cost about $10. If the rubber is still flexible, but the hose is oily, or it resembles mine, then there's a high possibility that changing this hose will help, costing between $20 and $65. If neither of these solutions work, then maybe replacing the clips or the clutch pedal will do the trick. But if all of the above fails, well, then I fear it's time to visit the mechanic and brace yourself for something worse. I'm now talking about the clutch and the dual mass flywheel. If you have any suggestions or if you spot errors, I'll say it again for the 10th time. I'm just an ordinary person, and I could be wrong. Write all your thoughts and comments here. Well, that's all for today. Thanks to everyone for watching so far, and see you soon.